Android 15 is here. What's happening at DevFest, the latest from Project IDX and the TEC Innovate experience in New York. This is Google Developer News. Welcome to Google Developer News, where we deep dive into the trending topics and important news from the world of developing with Google technologies. I'm your host, Emma Twersky. Let's jump into it. Fresh out of the gate this month is the big one. Android 15 is live for all. The developer community has been buzzing with feedback. We've seen a lot of positive comments around the enhanced UI and the new privacy features that are giving users more control over their data. Now, let's take a look at what's happening with DevFest. For those of you who don't know, DevFest events are community-led developer conferences hosted by Google developer groups around the world. You can find out where your closest event is by visiting developers.google.com. Check out the link below. Coming up soon is DevFest Sunnyvale. Step into the world of AI with a special focus on responsible AI. DevFest offers workshops, interactive sessions, and networking with top tech leaders to ignite new ideas, and maybe even inspire your next big project. And a quick update on Project IDX, our powerful tool that's reshaping how developers build full-stack, multi-platform apps. Over the past year, it's been amazing to see over 250,000 developers jump on board. Just last month, we celebrated the one-year anniversary of Project IDX and want to thank you, the developer community, for being part of this journey. If you haven't checked it out yet, there's no time like right now. Except not yet, because we're still doing a show here. This month, we're talking about Gemma, the open, lightweight AI models helping devs everywhere with their workflows and security. Now, it gets even better with Gemma Shield. Here's a tiny update. Well, tiny by name, but not nature. It's Gemini Nano. Here are some exciting updates for all you early preview program participants. First up, we're introducing a brand new language detection API that lets you determine the language being used on any web page right from your browser. It's a great first step towards more integrated translation features. But wait, there's more. We're also rolling out a summarization API, perfect for condensing long-form content into more accessible summaries, so you can now explore how shorter, more digestible content can enhance user experiences. Both of these APIs are still in the exploratory stage, so if you're part of our early preview program, get testing and share your thoughts. Now, let's join Dan Galpin to see who's in today's spotlight.
Hi, I'm Dan Galpin, and I'm excited to kick off our very first Spotlight segment with none other than the creator and host of the original Dev Show, Director of Developer Relations and Open Source, Timothy Jordan.
Hey, Dan.
Good to have you here, Timothy.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here.
So, before we get into the latest and greatest today, and I was there, so tell me about.
You were there.
Yeah, I was there. From your perspective, because I don't know what's in your head. What is the origin story of the Dev Show?
We really wanted to provide context for the entire Google developer experience. And what I mean by that is that we were producing a lot more video content, but it was all very specialized on an individual platform. And it turns out there were a growing number of our developers that were using multiple Google platforms. And we wanted to provide a place for them to get started. Even if they later specialized and went deep in one area, where's the one place a week where they could learn a little bit about everything going on at Google, right? And a selection of that. So that was the idea. We also thought that we could go a little bit deeper than we were in our short video content with the details of the platforms and the people behind them. And so we came up with this concept of the Developer Show. And it was gonna be a 20-minute long show with interviews and segments and pre-recorded video segments, some of them fun, some of them interviews with other Googlers. And we'd produce this once a week, and it turned out that was very challenging to do once a week. And in fact, what actually happened is we produced one or two of those, and then we started getting into a mode that Dev Show was a weekly experiment where we tried one new thing per week, evolving the show, looking at audience reaction and their sentiment, making sure that this was useful for everyone, till we landed on what became the TLDR, which was a very brief stand-up news show where we talked about news and stories from across the developer platforms at the company.
So pivoting to technology and kind of what the show is about, from your perspective, what was the most exciting announcement from I/O this year?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a lot of really good ones, but here's one that's applicable to our work in an interesting way, is the long context window for Gemini 1.5. That announcement was really interesting, and if you go back and you look at the blog post, we realized that you could put an hour of video into a single prompt, which means in a single prompt, you could upload this as a rehearsal and get feedback on how we're doing for the next take, which is really interesting. And with prompting, you can give it context and persona, so you could ask something like, if you were a developer audience and you were watching this segment, what are the most interesting and useful parts of it and what are not? And having sort of that kind of creative partner on something that's long form, I think is really, really interesting. Now, of course, there's a lot of great app and development applications as well, but I thought that was interesting.
For me, the idea of taking an entire open source project and putting it in the context window and just being able to ask questions about it and get really, really good answers. Because some of these projects are so big, there's no one who actually understands everything that's going on inside it anymore. And you could have the world's leading expert on that source code base just sitting there ready to answer your questions.
That's actually a really interesting thing about prompting in general, is that when you do the iteration, you can iterate the entire prompt and start from scratch, or you can iterate based on what you last did.
Yes.
Right? That same thing, but this new question. And so then you can start to have conversations with your data in a way, which is really cool.
So what's some advice that you have for developers that are looking to build with an AI model?
Ooh, okay, I'll give mine as long as you give yours as well.
Okay.
So here's my thing, is that I believe early testing of any new idea, when you're gonna eventually write code to support it, is really important. I think that's extra important when you're working with generative AI. And working out which prompts are going to give you consistently interesting results. How do you minimize hallucinations and sort of take ownership over what those results are going to be before you start to build that into your app workflow, I think is really important. It's something we call eval, right? And it's also important if you're building or retraining models, is again, like that next version of the model, is it better than the last one? You really need to have a strong opinion about that before you loop that back into production. And so both generative AI and models, I think that eval step is more important than it once was. What would be your advice?
It would be to liberate yourself from the kind of constraints you've been thinking about around in the past. Like, you can do so much more with AI, and I have been so surprised by some of the questions that I've asked and some of the prompts that I've given and the things that have come back. And I thought, wow, I wouldn't have thought to have actually put that in my app in the first place, but now that I see this is what the AI returns, I absolutely want that. So Timothy, what were your favorite announcements from I/O Connect Bengaluru? Well, maybe we should step back. Actually, I was thinking, maybe not everyone knows what I/O Connect is.
Yeah, we just did this last year, and we're continuing this year. So the second year we've done I/O Connect. Developer advocacy is all about helping developers be successful with Google, but also helping Google be successful with developers. And to make that possible, it requires a dialogue. And that kind of conversation, we really want that to happen as much as possible, and it does. These Connect events have lots of opportunity for those sorts of hallway conversations, not just the presentations, not just workshops, but those hallway conversations where we all kind of have a little bit more discovery and figure out what's next.
And I think it's also about developers connecting with each other as part of the community.
Yeah.
For me, I went to Berlin. I was fortunate enough to go to that event, and it was just it was amazing just to get to talk to that many developers.
Back to Bengaluru.
Oh yeah, big takeaways. Yes.
I will say, biggest announcement that I was excited about was a series of announcements around the app developer experience integrating AI. And so we talked about some stuff in IDX and GenKit having Go in alpha, and there were some experiments that we talked about. Project Oscar is really interesting. So really just thinking about how are we improving our entire suite of developer offerings to meet this moment to developers.
IDX is a way of bringing coding to the browser.
Sure.
And at least that's the way I see it, and it's also a way of bringing a lot of our developer products together. I think it's cool. That's really the ultimate goal is to meet developers where they are.
Yeah.
And IDX is one of those things that does that.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Timothy. This is such a full circle moment for the Google Developer News Show. And remember, if you at home want to read up on anything Timothy mentioned, head to the video description for links.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Timothy. Now it is time to see what's happening on the ground near you. We're talking about an amazing opportunity for tech enthusiasts, TEC Innovate. This is a hybrid program that kicks off with virtual learning and wraps up with an exciting 2-day event at Google's NYC campus. Applications are open until September 20th, so don't miss your chance to join this transformative experience. Apply now. Link is in the comments. While your work might keep your mind ticking over, sometimes we need to give it a little shot of fun to really help boost that brain power. So come one and come all, we're now opening Purrfect Code to all developers. Built for devs by devs, Purrfect Code is a Sokoban-style puzzle game built with Flutter using Flame. It's a multi-level coding challenge focused on code efficiency. The best part, you'll program a robot to move cats in boxes to safety. It's not just about finding a solution, but finding the most efficient one. This game is definitely for you. So get into it and see if you can master the Purrfect Code. Now, this is the news show, and we loved keeping you up to date with the latest in tech and code. But we also love to hear from you, whether it's your big wins, your wildest ideas, or even those moments when your code just won't cooperate. So before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What is the weirdest thing you've seen break code? Was it invisible characters or a sneezing dev hitting the wrong key? Drop your answers in the comments and you might see them featured in next month's episode. That's a wrap for this month's Google Developer News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next month with more exciting updates. May your code run on the first try. And until next time, keep coding.